Hello and welcome back to Stripping It Right Back, part 6. Today I want to talk about what it means to give consciousness agency, structural agency. Effectively, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving consciousness its own body so we can observe it in ourselves and ask ourselves, are we that? And if we are that, this thing that I'm giving agency to, then what are the ramifications for that realization? Okay, I want to get back to part 5.2 about language. I will get back to it eventually. I want to elaborate more on language and give it more scope and scale. Anyway, there are many pieces to this jigsaw puzzle. As I've said already, they're all complex jigsaw puzzles that you've got to piece. I want you, at the end, I'll ask you to piece them all together as a single constellation. And I want you, and when you organize them, your minds around them, hopefully you will see yourself in a different subjective mirror. So yes, giving agency to consciousness. We can't just simply say, we do have this transcendence, this feeling of connectivity, that it's all oneness, okay? It's all interconnected, okay? And there's no division anywhere. So, in the a priori sense, we understand the connectivity of it all being one unit that has been aggregated into many variables. So oneness. But pointing out that something is one unit doesn't actually tell us what it is. I can say a piano is one unit, okay? But to understand a piano, you have to open up the lid and get into its mechanics, okay? That's axiomatic, and that applies to anything. I can tell you a computer is one unit, but to understand that unit, you have to open it up to get into its complexity. A butterfly, by the same token, is one unit, but to understand that unit, you have to open it up to get into its complexity, to know it, okay? And so on, to perceive it correctly. So what is consciousness? How do we open it up as a unit? Okay, so we can organize our minds around it and know it as an agency unto itself, okay? So we can recognize it as an agency unto itself, around a bed of axioms. So we can give agency to so many things out here in this empirical garden. We can give agency to a chessboard. You all understand how the chess pieces, the pawns move, and the bishops can move diagonally, and the queen can move wherever she wants, and so on, and she does in a surreptitious way. Another story, a story I'm always trying to bury, incidentally. But anyway, so we can give agency. Chemists will give agency to the cell. Okay, we give agency to evolution above the idea of the 6-day magic wonder story that God created the world in 6 days. That doesn't have any agency. It's an agency of fairy tales. But so we want, what is our real agency? What is our immutable agency? What can we ground? What can we identify with? Like I said, identification is a mode. Okay, so. And under our understanding of what agency is a mode to the idea we can, find cogency with the agency of things. Okay, the mind has an agency that allows it to find cogency with the agency of things. Okay, that feels very mechanical, doesn't it? Okay, the way I've said, we evaluate, we navigate. I navigate what I evaluate. I internalize, I organize around what I evaluate, what I navigate, what I coordinate, what I unify. Okay, there's something very mechanical about that. Okay, so I'm giving it agency. Okay, and this is all part of consciousness. Like I said, we can't just allude to consciousness and go, peace man, we're all one, okay? That just doesn't wash, okay? No matter how good that feeling feels, okay? We have to understand its complexity. We have to understand, we have to understand it from an epistemological point of view. We have to understand it as it is, as what can call the thing in itself. What is the thing in itself of itself, okay? What is it unto itself, okay? So anyway, like I said, I'm just trying to give a body. I'm trying to place structure around the idea of consciousness so we can all identify with it, okay? And that's what I've been doing effectively. As I've said, I've been giving you all the different modes of the mind, and the modes are of a systemic nature, like I said, because we evaluate, we extend, we expand, we extend, we expand, we evaluate, we oscillate around knowledge, inference points and so on, we find axioms and so on, and this is very mechanical, okay? So this is a systemic lens, okay? We are systemizing, the very nature of systemizing, how we can systemize a butterfly, systemize a computer, systemize the piano, how we can find order in things, how we can set things up around order. So you can see the way I'm talking, okay? You can identify with this, okay? You can modify around this, you can organize internally around this and concur with me, concurrence being another mode and so on. You can regiment by the order of this, regimentation being another mode and so on. So these are all, there's a mechanical feel to their utility. That's my point, okay? And so you can all feel this program within, you can all feel this system within, okay? You can all identify, hopefully, with this system within, because it is within, okay? You are organized around it, you are organized by it, okay? So you have no choice but to concur, okay? I'm just giving light to it in an objective framework, so you can actually find cogency subjectively with agency of what is being given. Okay, if that makes sense. So you can identify with that. So I believe, I believe this conscious system has always been present in us. Okay, if we can run back down our evolutionary ladder, right back down to our primate cousins, we can all feel the ape within. Okay, we can all feel the ape. Okay, and this thing I believe has been conducting itself through us from the very beginning. But I'm just going to bring it into ape. Okay, apes evaluates a potential enemy. Okay, navigates, coordinates by the variables presented, organizes the mind internally around the variables presented, and acts accordingly. Okay, so apes evaluate, apes identify. Okay, apes evaluate, apes navigate by what they identify. Okay, they define what they're identifying, they define it, and they're directed by what they define, and so on. So this is all mechanical. Okay, they evaluate their own group. Okay, they navigate themselves by their own group, and so on and so on. They identify food, they evaluate food, and so on. So anyway, the point being is, this mechanism of place has always been present within us. Okay, these mechanisms that give these modes of utility, they give the mind agency. More to the point. So yes, anyway, so back into our evolutionary early ancestor. Okay, we were coming up, modifying, identifying, apes, chimps, identifying. Okay, identifying family, identifying group members, identifying enemy, identifying food. Okay, modifying accordingly, and eventually this identification mode that's within this identification mode started to identify with weapons, how to bring down the mammoth by making a spear, how to evaluate the shape of the spear and navigate one's mind by it, and so on. So once again, these things have always been present within. Okay, and these modes are what gave consciousness body. Okay, without these modes, without evaluation, consciousness is flat, so to speak. Okay, without our ability to extend and expand, to find scope and scale with the volume and magnitude of all things. Okay, consciousness is flat, and therefore language by extension is flat. We couldn't talk like this. Okay, I'm relaying binary structures of language positions that are opening up, okay, huge tracts of knowledge to you. Okay, if you can infer, find the axioms within, and so on, organize your mind around them, internalize them, and concur. We unify the mode of unification, so we can unify what we're identifying with. Okay, I can identify with the fact that I can unify, and I can unify the fact that I can identify. I can identify with the fact that you can unify and identify and evaluate and navigate, and so on. So once again, it feels mechanical because I'm giving it a systemic structure, I'm giving it systemic agency, and this is consciousness within. Anyway, keep running on this track, okay, and see where it goes. Streaming is always coming from the soul, coming from the heart. Okay, allowing the mind to just flow through this amazing instrument, this mouth, this amazing instrument, so we can blow sounds to one another through phonetic shapes and relay what we're trying to say. Okay, I'm just trying to relay what I've internalized about our species in relation to this amazing reality. Okay, and it's beyond hippie, let's face it. Okay, it's beyond saying peace and love and we're all one, and that's beautiful, as I've said, but this is the complexity of the piano being played. Okay, this is the butterfly flying out of itself. Okay, so it can relay itself and understand itself at the core level. And anyway, so yeah, identification. We have been apes, we've been trying to identify ourselves, and this mode of identification, okay, we start to identify eventually, let's just speed up our evolution, we start to identify with molecules and atoms, and we start to identify with the makeup of the body and genetics. Okay, so this identification tool that has always been in us, that allows us to give scope and scale to the mind and so on in a systemic manner, has always been in us, always present in us. Okay, so I believe this thing that is always trying to be always in a state of identification, like I said, has always been in us. Okay, I'm trying to show that in an a priori sense by taking you back right down into the darkness of our rise out of the dark. Okay, we've always been modifying, evaluating. I know I'm reiterating, but it's important. We've always been moving forward, making spears, making weapons, making pianos, making instruments, and farming, figuring things out, and so on, because all of these modes have allowed us to do so. And we've arrived up through ego, we got lost in ego, something I will talk about another time, but we got lost in ego, we walked into schizophrenic states, and we started to chop each other up, and well, look what it's become. Okay, the ape is still inside of us. Okay, it's important to actually, let me just address too the idea of transcendence, while I'm on ape. Okay, we can all feel the ape within us. Okay, and we all have the ability, one of our modes of our minds, the idea we can transcend, the transcendence that allows us to feel the oneness of everything. Okay, we can transcend, and we can transcend our minds up. Okay, but what does it mean to transcend? It means to rise out of what? To transcend out of what? Okay, because so we have to juxtapose two positions internally, so we can understand each one in relation to each one, and understand what are we actually rising out of. Well, we're rising out of our animal state. Okay, the state the animal that got lost in ego, okay? And ego can be a good thing, okay? Ego, if you're humble, okay, if you're working at an optimal, okay, and you're humble and you're enjoying this experiential realm, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? As long as you're recognize and respect the sovereignty of all individuals and you exploit none and use none basically for your own benefit, because that's just pseudo power and anyway arrogance, okay? But if the ego is not on track, if you're not internalized by the correct path of axioms, if you've walked off the path of axioms, you end up in fields of arrogance, fields of greed, fields, arrogance that has led us into wars and capitalism and the idea the guy at the top of the pyramid has some kind of power anyway. So anyway, you can all identify with this, okay? So we're trying to transcend the ego, trying to transcend the animal state so we can know ourselves by a bigger order, okay? Because we want to understand this thing that's always been in us, trying to identify ourselves. We want to understand desperately this thing that is within, that wants to transcend it all, that wants to transcend body, transcend body and know itself, as I said, in a bigger spectrum, okay? What is this thing? What is this feeling, this a priori feeling? And as I've said, I've been giving it agency, okay? And I believe this thing, we've risen out of body now, we've risen out of animal, okay? We can hold ourselves and we can find cogency with this agency that I'm trying to relate to you, okay? The idea that has been something in us, this systemic lens has been within all, irrespective of culture or language and so on. This systemic lens has been in all. It has been in an early state in chimp, and it has been refined and refined in the state of navigation. We navigated berries, we navigated enemy, we navigated group, we navigate the stars, and now we navigate the atoms. We're navigating the quantum field. We're trying to navigate the coordinates of quantum entanglement and so on. So we're in a state of navigation. We're trying to identify with the quantum field, identify with molecules. We're trying to identify with spirituality and God. So these modes have always been in play. So seen as a unit unto themselves, this is the point I'm getting to. Seen as a unit unto themselves, okay? There is an agency to this, okay? There is an agency to this because this is the organizing I of itself, okay? Of itself. Now I believe this organizing I to be the ghost in the machine, what I call the formulaic animal in the machine, something I'm getting to as we go along, something that has been formulating itself around its own nature. I believe this is what we are, okay? I believe we are this ghost, and it is within all. It is wearing 7.5 billion conduits as I speak, okay? And it's trying to resurrect itself through us by aligning with the correct inferences and axioms of itself, okay? So it can become whole again, okay? Anyway, this is what I want you to identify with, okay? Because that's where I'm leading, okay? I no longer identify, yes, I have a second order identity with this body and this experiential field, okay? But if you want to get into the epistemological text, if you want to get into a real understanding of what we are, okay? I believe you have to understand, give cogency to the agency of what I am trying to relate to you in a systemic fashion. Anyway, I hope you have, I hope you can take something from that. I've been on one today, clearly. Just stream and see where it goes. Like I said, that's the best way, And, I am going to keep going and going until I give absolutism to this field that I'm talking about, until I show you that we are a God in the machine becoming whole again. Anyway, peace and love and logic, and I hope you tune in again for part 7. Thank you.